Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Into the Dead. Into the Dead is brought to you by Pickpock. It's for 2 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, and games range anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. Into the Dead is based on the iOS and Android app from Pickpock. It is based on that endless zombie runner, and it has that same feel for sure. And depending on how you want to set up the game, you can have multiple boards to simulate that endless run. And as you move from one board to the next, other boards will come out and cycle through, kind of giving it that video game feel. So in this version, you play a survivor along with your canine companion, and you'll be trudging through the zombie hordes, fulfilling missions. You're going to be pushing your luck. You're going to be fighting zombies. You're going to be after those survival points to be the ultimate winner of the game and reach the farm. And so your objective here really is to be the player with the most survival points, and not just necessarily the player who makes it to the farm first, because that will gain you like 4 victory points for reaching the farm first. Second place is 3, third place is 2, and fourth place is 1. So it varies greatly about who reaches the farm, but there are numerous ways to get survival points in this game. You get survival points from some gear. There's gear that potentially if you do not use it during the game, it will net you survival points at the end. There's points for killing zombies, and as you kill zombies throughout the game, you're going to be getting more and more points. And then there's missions that you're trying to fulfill, and completing these missions will gain you survival points as well. And then there's even, for longer missions, there are extra points for the specifics for moving between different boards. So there's lots of ways to net these points, and really in the end, your goal is to have the most survival points. All right, let's take a quick look at setup. And now, setup can be different based on the number of players and how long you want the game to be, because you may use 2 or more boards to extend the path out. In this prototype, we've only got the 2 boards, but there's all kinds of possibilities with having endless runs, so to say. So there's all these spawn points on the board, and all the zombies are classified by a color type. You've got the reds, the blues, and the greens, and they all have different strengths. We'll take a closer look at zombies in a minute. So you put them out on their spawn points. There's obstacles that each player, based on the player count, can place obstacles out on the board. And then all your characters will start at the southern end on the starting positions, along with your canine companion. And you'll take all the excess zombies and put them near the board, because you will be using them quite frequently. And then there's markers. These markers are going to be used for various things based on different mission types and how you keep track of what you're doing in that mission. You have your supply, event, and mission cards. You have the zombie attack dice, and each player receives a character board along with their starting cards. And those starting cards also represent your starting weapons and your canine companion. The rest of the cards are your equipment cards and your action cards that you'll be using throughout the game. Now, every player also receives a set of weapon dice. Then, before you can begin your run through the zombie horde, every player will receive 4 mission cards. You'll look at these 4 cards, discard 1, and keep 3. Now, what's important about these, not only are they going to net you survival points at the end of the game if you achieve them, but they act as your overall arcing health, because when you are bitten by a zombie, you are killed. And if you have any mission cards available, you will discard one, regardless if it's completed or not. You'll discard it, and then on your next turn, if you have any mission cards left, you will respawn back to the board. So it does act as your overall health. Now, even if you are completely eliminated and you have no mission cards left, then you still get to play as the zombie master. So let's take a look at that next. So every round of the game is basically divided into 2 phases. The zombies all take their turn, and then each player will take a turn. So how does that work? Well, the first player in every round will be the zombie master. So there are 3 different types of zombies you will be manipulating as the zombie master. You've got walkers, you've got heavies, and you have biters. And they all have very different strengths and health. So the first thing you're going to do as the zombie master is take the 5 zombie dice, which encompass spawning and moving. You're going to roll these dice, and the first thing you're looking for is the skulls. The skulls of each color type will will be how many zombies get spawned on the board. And you'll place them on their spawn points. And if there isn't an available spawn point, then you'll place them near the spawn point. You're gonna just populate this board like crazy with zombies after all. And it's important to note that when you spawn these zombies as the zombie master, you have to place them on the board that your survivor is on or the board north of that. Now you get to move the zombies. So again, you go back to the colored dice that were rolled and you look at how many of each type are going to move. So if you have a red dice with a 3, you're going to move 3 heavies. And then you look at your black dice with the different numbers. This dice is going to dictate how far each of those zombies moves. So in this case, the heavies are only going to move 1 space. And the first thing you look for is you look for zombies within range of survivors. So if they're 1 hex away from a survivor, that's the red zombie that will move. Now your final dice that you need to check is your compass dice. And basically this is going to dictate if the zombies are going to shift east or west. And based on if they're running into an obstacle or obviously if they're going after certain survivors, those things are going to trigger that shift in movement because in general, zombies are going to move south unless they need to shift to go after a survivor or shift to go around an obstacle. Then for all the zombies within range of a survivor, it's time for them to attack. And they have their own attack dice. However, you as the survivor must tell the zombie master up front if you wish to use your companion as a shield. And if you do, that companion then is removed from the board as well as the zombie and you kill that zombie. But you have to tell the zombie master up front because that happens before the dice are rolled. So they roll those dice and the zombie master can decide which zombies attack first. And if you're looking for those bite marks, and if you get a bite mark on you as a survivor, you basically have one choice. If you have the knife still in your hand, you can play this card and discard it so you can survive that attack to live another day. And if you do, that zombie is killed, again, moving your zombie track up. But if you don't have the knife, then you are killed or removed from the board. Again, looking to your mission cards to hopefully bring you back next go around. Now it's time for each of the survivors to take their turn. And really, there's only one thing that you absolutely have to do on your turn is move forward 2 spaces. And much like the zombies, moving south, you as a survivor will always be moving north or northwest or northeast. You can never backtrack because it is like the app version of the game where you're endlessly moving forward. Also on your turn, you have several other options. In your hand is a whole set of cards that have equipment, they've got different types of actions, so you can continue to move forward even further if you wish, or you're obviously going to be doing lots of zombie killing. So you're going to be tapping into those weapons, and when you do, a lot of the weapons show the different dice that are rolled, and there's actually ammo that can augment those weapons and give you additional dice to roll, and you're just trying to take out the zombies, and each of the zombie types have a different health, so you got to keep that in mind as well. And each weapon type has a hex grid on it showing its spray pattern or damage pattern, so you know exactly which zombies are within range and which ones you can affect. Now, a couple other actions that are worth noting here is that you have lures and you have double tap, which gives you an extra attack or a way to distract zombies. These cards are very valuable and will save you at times, but remember, this is the zombie apocalypse. Setting things like fire and making extra noise is going to bring on potentially bad things. So you'll have events that will happen. And the way events work in this game is that when you play one of these types of cards, you'll draw an event card for every one you play, and they'll stack face down. And then at the end of your turn, you'll reveal these cards and activate them one at a time. So a lot of the time, these cards are going to just spawn more zombies. So a couple examples here. We have Nowhere is Safe, and you're going to place a zombie on each spawn point on the farm. And then there's also event cards that have a lasting effect for the round. And this one is Famine Will Ravage. All weapons roll 1 less die until the player's next turn. So events can be pretty devastating at times, but it just adds to the flavor of the game. And so as you're moving across the board, a couple other things here. There's supply drops, which we'll take a look at in a minute. But really, the thing you have to be cautious of is that if you run through a horde of zombies, wherever you finish your movement, all those zombies you ran past are going to get their chance to attack you. And so you'll have to roll those attack dice for each one of those zombies. And if you get bitten, you're taken out. So you really need to be somewhat careful and use your weapons to clear a path in front of you. Now, a great way to get cards back into your hand is supply drops, and they're indicated by the backpack on the board. So you run across one of these spots and you can do one of two things. You get 2 supply cards from the supply deck, or you can pull randomly 2 cards from your equipment discard pile. Now, you can also mix it up. You could pull 1 from the equipment discard pile and 1 from the supply deck. So you can mix and match however you need to here. But this is a great way to get cards back into your hand. Now, one of my favorite items out of the supply deck, I gotta mention because it is the chainsaw, which is phenomenal. It is only a one-time use. However, every zombie that you move past on this particular turn is going to be cut to shreds. You're going to eliminate them. So this is a super powerful weapon. And even though it's worth 1 survivor point at the end of the game, I prefer using this throughout. Another great way to get supplies is if you run across one of these tombstones. And these tombstones are laid out whenever your survivor dies. If you run across one of these, you get to pull 2 supply cards from the deck. So again, there's lots of ways to get new cards back to your hand. Now, it's also worth mentioning that each of your companions have their own special ability that you will want to tap into frequently. And there's ways to bring companions back. Obviously, there's snacks in the supply deck that can bring them back to the board if you lose them. If you die and respawn, they come back with you as well. So companions are definitely useful and you should use them frequently. So for Blitz here, he's a border collie. His ability is when the companion attacks a red zombie, remove an additional red zombie from the board. So it really is advantageous to use these companions to their fullest. And so the game comes to an end when the survivors reach the safe zone known as the farm, or they perish. And then you're going to calculate those survival points. You're going to see which survivor, which player was the most efficient at surviving the apocalypse, the zombie apocalypse. You're going to calculate those points. They're going to be based on ranking, getting to the farm, based on however many missions that you completed, and however many zombies you've killed and things of that nature. There's also, again, those supply cards that can give you points at the end of the game if you did not use them. So lots of things to calculate here and give you those points to be the ultimate apocalypse survivor. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form. So keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, they've done a really nice job capturing that video game app feel and putting it into the board game. You definitely get the high tension, the high pressure for moving through the zombies and the horde ever pressing closer to you. All right, but ultimately, folks, if this looks like a game that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it from me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.